I got it. Just to let everyone know that the meeting is being recorded and it will be used by Family Voice in accordance with GDPR and things. So for introductions, I guess I'll just start with myself, and then Tony, it'll be yourself, and then everybody else can introduce themselves. Just for orientation and I guess general tips, can you please, if you'd like to speak, there is a hands up option here somewhere. I've just used Teams and I'm slightly disorientated now that this is Zoom. But yes, if you'd like to speak, please, you can use the chat box as well. Tony Bailey is the head of SEN services in Peterborough in Cambridgeshire Local Authority. Am I right, Tony?
Exactly, not exactly. I'm the Assistant Director for SEN and Inclusion.
That's it. Sorry, I had Sheila's name written down as well, and Katie's. So I was going to go down my list. So Tony's going to deliver a presentation, and then at the end of the presentation, if there's any questions, you can either put them in the chat or put your hand up, and Tony will hopefully be able to answer them. If there's any questions that we can't answer today, if people can leave their email addresses, we're more than happy to email you back information that you request. So I guess with introductions, I'll probably start with myself. So my name is Naz, and I'm a parent rep for Family Voice. I'm also a registered mental health nurse, and I run a company called Alpha Autism Care Limited. So fingers in different pies, as it were.
I'm Tony Bailey. I'm Assistant Director of SEND and Inclusion across Peterborough and Cambridgeshire.
I think I see myself on the camera on the top row, so I'll introduce myself. It's Roger Valentine from Peterborough City Council, and I, amongst many other things, edit up the pages of the local offer website.
Hi, I'm Brenda Carr, parent carer of a nearly 21-year-old autistic girl. That's all.
Rachna, you there?
Hi there. Yeah, my name's Rachna Digpal. I'm a parent carer as well for a 7-year-old lovely young man with Down syndrome and other learning and development delays.
Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Nazreen. Hiya, I'm Tanya Smith. I'm parent carer of children with SEND, and I also run Clothes for Kids, which is, we've just taken over. So it's a new venture where we are supporting vulnerable children in the local area with clothes that they need and coats as well and things to keep them warm. Thank you.
Dan, are you there?
I am, yeah. So Dan Harris, I'm also a parent carer. I'm also sit on the Autism Strategic Board with Peterborough City Council, special advisor on education and employment to the Autism Centre of Excellence as well.
Is that everybody? I think it is. Have we missed anybody?
I'm just checking. I don't think we have.
Yeah. Just checking the chat. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I've got a short presentation just to take you through the SEND communication strategy that we've recently developed, just so you can all be aware of what our intention, aims and focus is at the moment regarding how to communicate all the aspects of SEND across Peterborough. And in fact, it's a joint strategy with Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. We're working together on that. And we've got a SEND comms group that meets regularly to kind of push these things forwards, which Roger is a part of, so he might be able to help with some of the questions that come up later. Part of it is there's an element where we'll be asking you for your ideas in terms of anything that you feel would be useful. So hopefully it will be collaborative and not just a one-way conversation, because as with all things with communication, we have to be as diverse as possible and pick up as many different ways of getting the message across, so that as many people as possible can have those messages in an accessible way as possible. So if don't wait till the end, there is a slide at the end that says questions and comments, but if you've got any comments and questions as we go through the slides, please use the hand raise point, and we'll go through it as we go through the presentation. Okay, I'm going to try and share my screen now. This is where technology either works for us or doesn't. Let's see how it goes. Please let me know if that is working.
Yeah, I can see it, Tony.
Fabulous. Okay, so yeah, my name is Tony Bailey. I'm Assistant Director of SEND Inclusion, which means that I've got responsibility for SEND and inclusion across both Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. We, like I said, we're going to go through the SEND communication strategy. So background, we've got a joint SEND strategy, and the communication strategy builds upon the themes of the joint SEND strategy, and in particular, making SEND everybody's business, which is the first theme from our joint strategy. In order to make SEND everybody's business, we want to embed the vision of the strategy into practice across all of the agencies that are working within SEND and working to support people and children, young people and families and parent carers who are working with SEND environments, so with children, young people and schools. So it's a key part of the SEND communication strategy to ensure that we are meeting that first theme. The other two themes of the strategy are identifying and responding to needs early. And of course, there's an element of communication around that to help people to raise their hands and go to the right place when they need support. And the final theme, the three themes, is to deliver in the right place at the right time. And again, there is a communication aspect to that. So communications strategy is really a golden thread through the whole of the SEND strategy across both Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. So it's really quite an important and vital part. So as it says, the strategy is going to bring together all partners and stakeholders to ensure that information and feedback being a clear part of our communication strategy. We want to take on board what young people, families are saying and want to be shared. And we want to make sure we collate all of that and make sure that everybody is aware of what's going on. So that's the background of how we developed it. Aims, parent and carers, children, young people to feel informed, listened to, and that they have a say. So as we say, a key part of it is to collate and make record of feedback and comments from parent carers and young people so that we can continue to work in partnership. And I think we've got a really strong vein of co-production that is currently in place across Peterborough in particular. And we want to maintain that and keep listening and add it into our plans as we go forward. We want to reassure parents. There are times in a child's life when you need some information, help and support. And we want to ensure the local offer and all digital content is accessible and visible, as well as being used regularly by children and young people and the professionals that are adding into it. We've got some people on our communications board now, or group, rather, it's not a board, who are from young people's groups and are helping us to create more and more accessible, parts to the information that we're sending out, which is really positive. We want to ensure resources are being appropriately and effectively accessed, not just through the local offer, but in as many ways as possible. We're looking at how many different ways we can send the same information out. So not everybody likes to read. Some people like to watch. Some people like to experience it or go to things like this. These kind of events are a crucial part and an important part of the SEND communication strategy. And we want to raise awareness across the communities and with parents and carers and how they can access services at the right time, keying into that other theme of the SEND strategy. We want carers and parent carers and young people to know how to feedback about communications, to ensure that partners are informed, engaged, and understand the content and benefits of the local offer, and to ensure partners are aware of their role and responsibilities in providing regular content. So some of our communication strategy is about sending things out into communities and to young people, parent carers and families. And some of it is about internal communications to make sure that we are connected in the different services across social care, health and education at the same time, because I know there's a lot of crossover and overlap, and we've identified that there can be some pitfalls in not making sure that those things are connected and working well together. So we need to have that in place. Again, feedback keeps coming through as a main aim, as you can see, and communicating changes and developments in policy as soon as possible, so people are aware and informed of the direction we're going. Again, that's connected to how we're connecting all the services together. Objectives: increase awareness, identify champions and key staff, cascade the messages. We're working with youth champions. We want parent champions to be identified and help us to do that. We know that if we can find the right people in the right places, we can spread the word much quicker, and information can be shared much more effectively if we have people from within communities to help us do that. They can identify the best way of sharing that and help us to find the best way of doing that. The increased stakeholder engagement with service channels, that is about making sure that we've got everybody who should be involved, aware of where they should be and when they should be working in line with the strategy. We want to be sharing consistent, accurate information. We want to celebrate success and promote support. We know there's an awful lot of fantastic work that goes on that can be missed, and we want to be able to not only report on what we're doing about to deal with some of the issues and problems, but also celebrate where things have gone well and where communities have found solutions that are effective. And we know that people like and groups like Family Voice are coming together and bringing people together and supporting them in an effective way. So we need to make sure that that forms a part of our objectives. Local offer is known, parents and carers and young people, so local offer is a key part of moving forwards. Key messages: we're working together to develop a single strategy to improve outcomes for children and young people and their families. It is about outcomes. We need to focus, and we can continue to be child-centered in our approach with communications. We're not just going to tell you stuff for the sake of it. We want it to be focused on making sure that it has an impact. Impact being the key word. We want to support families. We want to complete assessments and plans on time. We want to make sure that all those things
Really quietly.
at the right time. Sorry?
Sorry, no. I was just talking to my son, trying to be quiet.
No worries. And we involve and listen to children and young people sending their families. So I want to stress that the opportunity to have people's voices heard and to have that impact into our policy and approach is a really strong theme within our communication strategy. We'll make it clear to families, children, young people that information, support and advice is available, how to access it, and give feedback on that so we can continue to improve it. We'll work together to support children, young people and their families with STEM to prepare well for adulthood, to participate in the community, be as independent as possible, and communicate changes and develop some policies, as I've said before. That element of PFA, preparation for adulthood, is another key theme. We start our preparation for adulthood at 0. We don't start that preparation for adulthood at 20 or 21. We want to change the way in which we look at how we work through the system to make sure that communication is available so that people can access the right support as early as possible, again within the themes of the STEM strategy generally. So key stakeholders, the core has been described as the children, young people, STEM, parent, carers, families, Family Voice and Pinpoint from Cambridgeshire, who are the Family Forum from Cambridgeshire. Those are the core elements. These are the people that we need to make sure are fully aware of the information that's available. We also need representatives from the LA, and that includes social care, that includes the whole of SEND services and education more generally, health for those children who have health needs, education providers, that's not just schools, that's earlier settings, that's AP and special schools, mainstream schools, primary, secondary, FE colleges and beyond into university. Public and communities, obviously, they form a huge part of that. Local support groups like Family Voice, and then the media. We need to engage with the media to make sure that they're on board with the messages that we're sending out to ensure that, you know, we've got consistency coming out and that we can manage, you know, not just the celebrating and the good stuff, but there are some difficult messages to share sometimes, and we need to manage those too, and have those as part of our strategy. So what are we going to do about it? How are we going to do it? So we've got newsletters that we send out. We're going to continue to build on that. We're going to make sure that our email processes are effective so we can reach out to as many people as possible. We're constantly developing lists of emails and groups and cohorts of people that we can email directly, and hope that that will cascade through as many people as possible. Social media, we've been looking at the possibility of social media. It comes with some challenges, social media, in terms of how you monitor that, how you keep it safe for everybody. But we're looking into how we can maybe do that, perhaps including and focusing through a young person's group, because, you know, social media and young people seem to be quite a symbiotic relationship. So it seems sensible to kind of look into that avenue. Webinars like this, you know, we want to do as many of these as we can. The local offer, we're looking at changing its name to the Send Information Hub. That's still a progress, you know, action in progress as such. The feedback we got is sometimes young people particularly don't know what the local offer is, and actually Send Information Hub would still be bracketed as the local offer because it's a legal requirement to have a local offer as per the code and the legislation that governs that. But we're looking at rebadging that and relaunching it in some way so that people know exactly what it's supposed to do. External websites, as in, you know, working with other people with their websites and making sure we've got websites that are available for people to come and access. You know, not just the local offer, but, you know, autism, other areas of SEND, we could have their own pages. Those kinds of things are under development. Intranet and internal systems that we have, where we can make sure that the people who are connected together across all the services have got the information they need. We're looking at ways in which we can use video, animation, short snippets of discussion and sharing of policy via word of mouth, with a whole range of translations and subtitles to try and meet as many of the communities that work within Peterborough as possible. We're looking at those kind of things. Media, as I've said, conferences, we want to include that. Printed materials, people just sometimes don't want to see it and want to read it and want to process it. We understand that that's a different way. Scripts that we're going to provide for our staff teams so that we've got consistency, and we've also got a specific way of explaining certain things, and that's based on the feedback that we've had from young people particularly, who want things to be simplified and more accessible for them. So we're working with groups like Voiceability and our youth champions to look at how we can make those things even more accessible and even include some of the young people as part of the communication. And then of course there's school information, making sure that schools have the information early enough, and we will work with schools in order, because they know their community better than anybody, and they will know the best way of getting the information out. Any other ideas? We'll throw it open if you've got any other ideas in terms of what we should be doing or ways of communicating information that you think will be more effective. Open it up. Anybody got any ideas? Or have we covered it all? We've tried to. No news is good news. We must be doing a good job.
Just for me though, sorry, I can't find a hand raise on this. I think because I'm on a small screen, so I can't raise my hand. So I just kind of put in. And I think somewhere though, we have to capture that an awful lot of this was going on before, and we were starting to just make progress. And then obviously COVID came along. And even though we're getting through, I personally think it's still quite a while before we're going to be getting fully back on track. So it needs to be recognized that some of those media and things that you put up there, Tony, some are going to really suit the scenario of where we are at the moment, and others like conferences are less so. So I think it's just putting that in mind, that some are going to be really useful now and others are still going to maybe be a good few months off.
Yeah, no, good point, good point. I mean, this is a strategy that is alongside our larger strategy, which is from 2019 we were working on this. That's when our strategy first was launched, the joint strategy, and it's right through to 2024. So I guess all of these things that we're looking to develop and put in place, we require funding and infrastructure and foundations, and a lot of that has been redirected to deal with the COVID challenge at the moment. But we're still focusing on making sure that we get this done as soon as possible and within the framework of the 5-year plan that we had in place. That's a fair comment. Okay.
And then someone just put up, does this include Easy Read? And yes, it does. Basically, we do a lot of Easy Read documents already, but the aim is to try and do more. And I think that was another thing, just jumping around. Part of this is where I've noticed we don't seem to have any of the partnership groups represented on here. So like the learning disability and a few of those. So I think, Tony, maybe after the meeting, we need to have a chat on that. Because one of the key things the partnership groups are very clear on is that the agendas and the documents presented at those meetings need to be an easy read. And I think that's something we perhaps almost need to adopt as well up to a point. So I think it was a really good, valid point, and we're well aware of it. Yes, we do a lot, but yes, there's an awful lot more we can do. And I think that will roll out with what Tony's been saying about the communication side of things, that we're starting to get to grips properly with it now. And hopefully we'll see some really good improvements in the future as well.
So part of the way in which the youth champions and Voiceability are supporting us is that they're taking on hold of those documents and minutes and any plans that we have, and they're creating easy read versions, or what they're calling accessible versions of them, to be able to share with as wide a group as possible. And we're looking at different levels of easy read as well, because some people need it to be more simple than others. And we want to be pitched at the right time. So we've already instigated relationships with other groups to help us do that. And I think it's powerful that we get young people themselves to support that, so they can design that through that. And so far, what we've had back in return from those groups has been really, really good, really high quality, and the feedback's been fantastic. So that's already in play, but we'll continue to do that and move forward with that.
Sorry, can I just add something else? I asked that question. Thank you for clarifying that. Will it be possible? I know you put down videos and media. Is it possible to, I know it's really challenging, but to reach out, because the community we live in is really, really diverse, isn't it? So there's different languages and different understandings of what disability is and what's available. And I know it's really challenging to reach out to every single community, but are there in different languages and different people speaking in those videos? I guess for me, it's that the thing that came back from our research from Family Voice was that some people are getting the information and they find it really, really useful. Others are not. And part of me wondered whether it was because it's difficult for them to understand it as it is, the format, like just a web page and you go in there and click it, because some people really don't use the internet either. So I guess part of me wondered whether it's not the actual quality or the content that's there, which seems to be really useful when people use it. It's actually how people access it.
Yeah, I think, in terms of video and different media, we've talked about animations which don't require anyone to speak as such. It's more like a graphic representation of like pathways where you can get support and things like that, and that would require voiceovers, and the voiceovers could be in a range of languages. And we've talked about, and we've put a bid in for some funding to help us to do that more effectively. And we're also looking at a range of subtitles so that people can have their language there for them to access it. We want to be able to be as inclusive as possible with all of the communities that we have living in Peterborough, because it's a very diverse community, as you say. So that is all part of the conversation. It's all part and tied in within the strategy. It's not just about presenting this in one format, in one language, and in one direction. It's trying to do as much of it as possible in as many different ways as possible. And if there were representatives from these communities who we could work with, that's an idea that could come through, that we could work with to kind of help us to do a version so that it was somebody speaking the language directly. What we're looking at is 1 minute to 1.5 minute videos is the kind of time scale that we're looking at to just have somebody explain what's happening in a certain field and around a certain policy. And we'd certainly be open to people from the communities coming forward and saying they'd like to do that. You know, they don't even need to wear a tie, do they? They just come in. There's a certain, you know, element of a standard that we need to film it properly. And I guess one of the challenges we've got at the moment with COVID is how do we bring those people together in a safe manner? But that would be certainly something that I'm sure that the communications group would be open to. And certainly I would be.
Could I just quickly as well, Tony, just share my screen so I can show people the website, because there's a key thing.
Sure.
So I can't, there we go. So let's see if it'll share screen. Because it's always a pain if people can let me know when you can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, so I appreciate what you've said all about the different medium, and the websites aren't always the easiest and it's not always what people want. But I just wanted to make people aware that a lot of people don't realize is that we have this language section here at the top. So whichever page you're on or wherever, you just click on it, and then there's quite a few languages here to select. And so if you do, I don't know, let's just do, if I do this one as an example, translates the whole website. So it's just to make sure people are aware that there are different translations all the way through for it. And that was it, really, just making that point.
Excellent.
And now I've got to try and not share. I can't see how to stop showing anyone. Oh, there. Okay, seeing it.
You got it. Well
Okay,
done.
sorry about that. Yeah, it's like everyone else. I don't do that many Zoom meetings, and I know Teams inside out, but this one leaves me a little bit sometimes.
Okay, almost at the end. Outcomes, these are our intended outcomes: increased awareness of SEND processes, improvement, service support, encourage involvement, varied forms of communication, you know, across all the stakeholders, clear and accurate messaging, and engagement, and improved platforms for communication. And also, we want to make sure that we're thinking about what makes good communication: timely videos, pictures, bigger font, simple word sentence, slow speech, repeated information, checking that we understand, nothing fake, and you know. So again, is there anything else we could go to? I think we've covered. That very briefly is a fly through in terms of where we're at with our communication strategy. We have been meeting more regularly over the last 2 or 3 months. Obviously, before then, we've been focused on the COVID response, and we're not going to apologise for that. We've needed to do that, but we are ramping up in terms of the direction for this. And as we said, we're building we put in a bid for additional funds to help us do things more professionally, more directly. So we're hoping that will come through, and then we can ramp it up again. So over to you guys now. Any questions, comments, any individual scenarios? You know, happy to go through those. So I'm just going to stop sharing so I can see the chat, and I can still see the chat. There we go. Yeah, BSL. Yeah, that's a language in itself. Yes, we're looking at signing for all of the things that we're doing as well. Yeah, absolutely. BSL and also Makaton.
Thank you, Tony. Yeah, I put that out there as well. I have a lady I'm working with at the moment who has a little girl, 4-year-old, has a diagnosis of autism. I've met her. She's quite she's got high level needs. She's non-verbal, still in nappies, but mainstream. So she applied for is it Maidenhead, Meadensweed? Copas, the old Copas school, and that was rejected. So that her option's been declined. So she's now looking at Phoenix School because she really doesn't feel that she'll she'll prosper in a mainstream school. She's been told no. She will obviously be appealing. It used to be years ago when I had my eldest daughter was young, that you had to go to, there was this sort of silent rule, as it were, where you had to try out mainstream school first before special needs schools were considered. Is that still the case, or is it different now? Because to me, it just seems obvious that her needs are better met in a special school setting.
Well, I mean, I don't know whether we should be getting into individual cases, but on a general note, I think that, that if there's an educational health and care plan and the process is going through, then that will decide what is the most appropriate setting for any child. So there's no rule that you have to go to mainstream first if an educational health and care plan makes it clear that you need a specialist setting. However, we're an inclusive authority and we want to do wherever we can. We want as many children to experience and benefit from mainstream education wherever possible. So that would be our go-to and standard position, unless, of course, the assessment and advice given to us through the educational care plan told us something different. Does that answer your question? You're on mute. Everyone's on mute. You could all be talking. I don't know. Hi, Naz.
Hi, no, thank you for that. I'm just going to let her know that her EHCP needs to be reviewed again because she has got it. I just wondered whether it was a general sort of rule of thumb, because it used to be years ago. That's what I was told when my little one was younger, to try out mainstream school. So I'll probably just ask her to request a review of the EHCP plan and consider appealing it.
That seems sensible. Okay, any more comments? Sorry, something here in the chat. And if we miss any languages, as you say, there was just a note here to say that the list of languages on the website might not be comprehensive. If there is a language that we're missing, I mean, I think we've tried our very best to put as many languages in as possible. If there is one that's missing, let us know. We'll do what we can to add it. Of course. Okay.
Are there any other questions from anyone?
Any comments? Be good to know if you felt that we were going in the right direction, or if you were happy with it, or just not see something in you.
Yeah, so Tony, the feedback we got from doing the work that we do with Family Voice was that actually the information is really, really good. It's really useful. So it's just the accessing it. So would you have addressed anyway? It looks like you're already working on trying to, get that link between getting it out there to people to understand. You're already working on that. How often will it be reviewed, the website? How often is it updated? Is it done on a regular basis?
There's an ongoing process to ensure that the website is up to date. There's a team that makes sure that that's happening, and the communications group will continue to help.
I think I can comment on that though as well, because I do it. And basically the website's it's updated about 8 or 9 times a day, constantly with all information. I mean, that's basically my role, is I will make sure I go through. The one thing is that it's a massive website. I mean, in terms of the average website, you look after maybe 6 or 7 pages. We've got hundreds, and the information on that, there's a lot, and some of it is complex. So there will be times, even though it's a bit like the Forth Bridge, even though we do it 8 or 9 times a day, you will find stuff that's not accurate. But we constantly strive, and we've recently got a new bit of software through Cambridgeshire that allows us to analyze the website through a program rather than us doing it, to highlight things like broken links. But we also go through all the records in the directory that are part of the website, and that's done on a regular basis, on both a kind of an auditable schedule as well as ad hoc. So it's done all the time, and all we always say, and I say on all of these meetings, if anyone sees anything that's not accurate, then just go email us. Basically, there's also a contact form on every single page. There's a feedback form, and all you need to do is just say, this information on the page isn't accurate, can you please review? And then you don't even need to tell us what page, because when you fill that in, I think if I just share the screen, because again, it's could you just unshare again, Tony?
Yeah, sure.
I've just there we go, I've got it open here. And these are where these meetings are good, to let people know, because what we find as well, it was mentioned at one of our meetings that we have different cohorts all the time. So what happens is that I've done this many times, but the people here today, apart from one that I recognize, is people we, are all new. Is my screen sharing?
Yeah.
Okay, so whichever page you're on, if you just click on that feedback, you get this up. So we ask, did you find the information you're looking for? Yes or no? How can we improve the site? You can tell us what you were looking for, and anything like that. Extra comments saying, I was looking for this, couldn't find it, I used this search term, whatever you want to give. And then when you send that on our system, it tells us which page you were on when you made this comment. And it's designed to be anonymous. So the reason why we do that is so people don't need to register to be able to leave feedback. So it's completely anonymous. You can say whatever you need to find. And so, as I say, if I was just on another page and I go to your health and staying healthy, say you were just on here and there's something that wasn't quite right, again, just open up the feedback page. So yeah, let us just know whatever you want, and we do react to it straight away as well. We look at the pin mailbox regularly.
Fantastic.
I wondered, Roger, Family Voice and Little Miracles do an awful lot of sessions, really, really lovely sessions on a sort of monthly, on a regular basis. Is that included on the local offer, like a calendar of sorts, to say this is what's happening locally?
Yes and no. It's covered in two ways. Certainly on the web pages, we have a page called Parent and Carer Participation. So I've got this event and all the other events that Family Voice have got on for the next few, I think it's about the next month and a half, they're all on. And then when the new events come up, we pop those up as well. Little Miracles will tend to have a record, so they update all of their information on there. So if you Google Little Miracles, it would take you, not Google, but you search for Little Miracles in the site, it would take you to that as well. But it's just one of those things, again, with the way the website's very complex, as I know where they are, but if you're not looking, it can sometimes be a little bit difficult, but we try to make sure we get all the keywords there. But certainly for Family Voice, all the courses that you've got on, everything is all on the Parent Carer Participation page under Family Voice. And as I say, all the surveys as well from Family Voice are on that page. And that's the page we're trying to get people to get to know more about. So again, sorry, I'm just going to quickly show you. And then if people at this meeting know, because I always try to use these meetings to get as many people to know as possible. I just got to shrink that a minute because I can't. Oh, you can see it's one of the top pages because I do it all the time and check it. So it's this page here. If you just remember, it's the local offer Parent Carer Participation. Family Voice is here. So there's a bit of an introduction about who Family Voice are. Then we mention the expert training program, upcoming trips and activities. So we link to the Family Voice calendar, which is a good way, because then when you keep your calendar accurate and up to date, we link to that rather than us doing it. There's obviously the goodie bags, but I've got this section here, upcoming workshops. So there's the upcoming mental health, mental wellbeing one, open forum this today. So this will come off today after we finished here. The seldom heard communities one, so they're all here. And then when you do your next newsletter, you push out your next communication about what activities they're on, they're all there. And then it'll be interesting to see what we get for little miracles. Because I imagine, okay, so this is going to be, I suspect though, out of date. So we do run, you can see if you put in little miracles, you've got all of these. But what we're doing, and this is what I'll now do, is that we're starting, we often used to write this information in on the records, and we're now getting as many people as possible to update their own records. So I will now take a note, and I'm going to write to Little Miracles and send them the template email I send for them to make sure they update these records. So the information's there, it's just not always accurate. So that's something out of this meeting that I'll make sure I do straight away afterwards.
Thank you, Roger. I think these sessions, these open forum sessions, are really, really useful, because we can then cascade it down. So when we're working with the parents, we can then guide them through the page and
Yes.
know where to click and what to do.
But again, I mean, this is where it goes. This is where COVID gets in the way, because before COVID, I used to be in your offices all of the time doing lots of presentations to people about how the website works at the coffee mornings. And I used to do it to Family Action as well. And what we also do is we actually get people like yourselves, and we used to run, and I still make the offer, is I'll happily do a one-to-one with some of the champions within Family Voice to go through the website, because it is very difficult, you know, where you've already said that a lot of people don't use a website. And that, by the way, comes from the fact that government said that a local authority in the Act must put all their information in one place, and that place should be a website. So we're fighting sometimes against what the government originally intended. And then it comes down to budgets then to get the information out elsewhere. And that's something Tony's touched on, that they're starting to look at budgets for communication to be able to do that. But because it's a new cohort and I'm meeting, you know, quite a few new people from Family Voice, I'd be more than happy for you to just let me know on an email, and then I'll set up some one-to-ones and run through all of this with you. Because it's a brilliant website in terms of a resource, but it's a bit of a pig of trying to work your way around it. But once you know, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good, and it's just trying to teach people how to search it, really, to help then other people that you may have meetings with to talk to.
Great. Okay. Loads of really good to get direct links into the website there and shows how it's working. I even learned something, so really useful. I think that's the end of that bit. Sheila Sullivan's here. She's the head of services for SEND and inclusion services, and she was just going to do a quick update on where we're at with the send picture at the moment. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I do apologise. I am hopeless at Zoom as well. We're so used to Teams that when somebody changes it, we go, ooh. So we really understand what it makes you think about what it's like for children when we suddenly change things for them. So I hope you'll forgive me. I hope you'll forgive me too, in that what I'm going to present to you is data. So Family Voice asked us if we could share some of our statutory data, the data that surrounds EHCPs. So we had the first of what we hope will be regular meetings with Family Voice a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, and shared the data that we use really for performance management. And I think what Louise asked really was, could Family Voice share it widely? Happy to do that. I think that meeting was recorded. But I thought today we would just show you what we've been doing, and I'm going to be hopefully ably assisted by one of my staff, Jessica Conway, who is the Peterborough Senko. And I apologise also, I'm useless at going through data. Kate Blessett, who's my head of the statutory assessment and monitoring team, is brilliant and generally does this. So bear with me if you don't mind. So this is in the spirit of transparency, folks. We're just sharing with you what we have been, what it's like at the moment in the statutory team in terms of the position with EHCPs, because we know what it's like when you're waiting for something to be reviewed, a plan to be reviewed. You've made a request for a new plan, and you're just waiting for the outcome and you're wondering what's going on. We're doing our level best to improve that communication, and I'll say a bit more about that at the moment. But we thought you might also like to share you might also like to see what we're doing to try and be, I suppose, with our team, to try and make sure we're on top as much as possible of these processes. So you can see this is the data we do every month for August 21, and this would be shared with the team. Here's where we are, folks. Look, we're a bit down on this, a bit up on that. Just classic kind of management of people, really. But you've got the August 21 data, and you've got the August 20 data for comparison. And it is, I will tell you now, a really good picture in terms of August 21. I'd be ashamed if I was showing this to you in August 20, but I would say to you, we've had an increase in staff since August 20, and you can see the difference that it's making. So in August 20, actually, just go through it very, very quickly. I'll pick out some headlines. I think it's self-explanatory, but we had a really high number of requests for education, health and care plans. That's what the EHCNA means, education, health and care needs care needs assessments. We think it's COVID connected, but you can see how in August 20 it was only 3. Remember, the schools have been shut for a long period. This year, August 21, we've had open, shut, but there's almost like in the system, teachers not having had as much of a chance as they usually would to understand their children and young people, and then making a decision, yeah, we want to put in a request, because I think most of those were from schools rather than parental requests. You've then got the number of assessments that were agreed in the month. It goes down to written feedback. That's when we agree to, don't agree that we carry out an assessment, but don't agree that an EHCP is needed. So naught means on both occasions, we decided that a plan had to be issued. So we rarely, to be honest, issue written feedback, but it's not unknown. These are the really interesting timescales, folks. These are the draft EHCPs. So these are the assessments issued within timescales. And you can see in August 20, we were at 13%. This August, we were at 81%. And then in terms of the finals, so that final EHCP, last August it was 17%, and August was the worst month. I've got to say it wasn't like that every month last year, but it was definitely an awful month. This year it's 92%. Now DFE have told us that we are in the top centile. So in terms of our performance around EHCPs, because the national average I think is hovering somewhere around 60% in both of those areas. So we're really, really proud of that. You can also see we're trying to keep track of our mediations. So mediations are where a family is unhappy with a decision that's been made, whether it's about decision to issue a plan or maybe a placement disagreement. We offer meetings with families ourselves first, but parents have an absolute right to request mediation, and we support that. And we had 4 of those in that month. We had 8 live tribunals, 6 last year. We've got more children this year. That's still very low, 8, 6, they're all quite low. I thought you might be interested in the next bit. We have to keep track of who is going to what special school, how many requests we've got, because we need to know how, what the position's like in our schools and how many we're sending for placement in comparison to how many places they actually have. So you can see that this year in last August, we agreed 22 places in specialist schools or provisions, and last year it was 13. I wouldn't read anything into that because the numbers actually go into panel were less anyway, but you can see it's quite a substantial number. So HW is Heltwaite, LAO is Lyme Academy Autumn, Mead is Meadenstead, NG is Neengate, and MF is Marshfields. And then we also have places in our specialist hubs, and you've got 2 places being, or you've got places being recorded there. 3 for the Wellborn Hub, which I believe is ASD, if memory serves me rightly, and the St. John Fisher is HIVI, so hearing impairment and a visual impairment. Okay. So again, some surveys. We're really surveying our families now, almost at every point. So I do apologise if you've had surveys, you know, feel you're drowning in them. But we really want to sort of know how people think about how we are doing and how satisfied they are. So that you can see that the cumulative number that we've received since December, she's got it. We've got 80 bits of feedback, 7 of those covered August, 37 following the assessment, and 43 following an annual review. And then you can see we've got high levels of satisfaction, 86% saying that they felt listened to, 91% saying that the plan reflected their child's needs. Well, that's really good because that's the aim of that. And then you can see those overall satisfaction figures there, which we're really pleased about because, you know, obviously families aren't always pleased because we can't always give people what they want, to put it crudely, but that if we can actually explain things and why decisions have been made, you know, even if people can't agree with us, at least they feel satisfied that we've explained it. And there are, of course, appeals that people can go to if they feel they're not, that we've made a wrong decision. And I'm sure sometimes we do. We do our level best not to, but I'm sure we sometimes do. You got some nice quotes there from people that you know, have fed back to us. There are loads more. We haven't just handpicked the good ones. There were loads of really nice ones, and thank people for all their lovely, kind comments. We've put in a new post this recently called the 0 to 6 weeks officer. That's the first 6 weeks of a request for an EHC needs assessment. And we felt that this is where we were falling down a bit because families were telling us that, you know, they couldn't keep track of officers, they didn't know what was happening, they didn't understand the process. So we've now got a dedicated officer that if you like, tries to hold a family's hand through that process, whatever the outcome, and only leaves that family once an EHC needs assessment has been agreed, and then everything is handed over to the officer that will actually, you know, collate, coordinate the assessment. Or there is where things haven't been agreed, the 0 to 6 officer arranges a meeting for the family so that everybody can look together at a way forward. But you can see the kind of satisfaction levels that we're getting from that officer. They're really, really high. Okay. Even though actually, one of the things that we wanted the 0 to 6 officer for is that we felt that we were too low. You can see that percentage of those completing the survey who had an assessment agreed was 32%, yet satisfaction levels with that officer were high. Now, one of the other reasons for putting in that officer is we wanted to make sure that we were doing our duty to collect every bit of evidence that there was, because you know, sometimes when we went to mediation over an assessment that wasn't agreed, suddenly out of the blue, somebody would come up with a piece of vital information that we didn't know existed, and it really turned things. So we've invested in that person who can really make sure that we've uncovered everything that there is to uncover. I think schools' perception was, and we've tackled it with them, that we were making it harder. They're saying, no, we're not making it harder. We just want to make sure that we've got everything so that we make the right decision. Okay, I'll be very quick now because I think I don't have very much time here, but let's go further down. A few more quotes. The name Heather is mentioned a lot, and I have to say, remember folks, that this is An atmosphere of trust here. Heather is the name of the officer. Okay. We've got meetings for responses for our planning meetings here. Again, we're not getting a lot of feedback from those, as you can see, so we'd like a lot more feedback. But what we are getting is very good, as you can see. And again, some nice quotes. I think, Jess, do you want to say a little bit about transition officers?
Yes, just to really mention, I'll try and let me put my video on. See, I can't see what I look like on the screen, but yeah, just to mention the transition officers, they have been in post for 1 year. We have 3 transition officers, and 2 of them are actually qualified Senkos, which has put us in great, you know, it's been a real strength. And one is a very experienced member of the statutory team previously, so some real strength and knowledge and resilience come to the team. The transition officers are responsible for a few areas across the statutory team and the SENI service and beyond. One of them is to look and work on our Year 5 transition reviews. As you might know, when a child with a plan gets to Year 6, we have a really important deadline to hit, which is the transition deadline in February, to ensure that those plans are finalised, naming a placement moving into really Year 7. We also then have a really key deadline at the end of March for our Year 11s. And also actually the Year 2 infants, which falls on the same date as the Year 6s. Historically, it's always difficult sometimes to hit these deadlines, and that's why we start the Year 5s to have their annual reviews in the summer term. But what we ensure is to really build knowledge and resilience across the city, is that the transition officers are attending those annual reviews. And the reason for that is working closely with our settings, they're supporting the modelling of the annual review process, and that will filter down across other year groups. But then we're ensuring that our paperwork, it does really follow the statutory process to the T, really. And last year we had some fantastic data in terms of hitting those deadlines, where off the top of my head, I think it was 96% of our, yeah, I'll come back to you on that one. Where we've named a placement with where we've actually finalised off the plan and named a placement as well. What you do find in some local authorities is where you can finalise off the plan, but it doesn't always name that placement. But we're very proud here in Peterborough that we have done that. And that's really supported those families and young people and children across the city. So you can see here, in terms of the Year 5 transition reviews, what we ask is for the statutory team is that they report on data, not only to the statutory team itself, but to the whole of the SENI service, so we know exactly where we stand on a weekly basis. I can then see there, for example, just to pick this out, in terms of Year 5 transition reviews booked and then completed, we're on to 88% of those Year 6s finalised. So that means that the families will have those plans with the next setting ready for next academic year. So those Year 5s will now currently be Year 6s, but they will have those finalised plans naming the next setting. So that family there can, you know, look at the uniform and open evenings and really get excited for their children. That will hopefully be 100% by the end of February. So we have the data now for our Year 11 review. So anyone that has a young person now in Year 11, we have asked all of our settings, that includes special schools, for those reviews to happen just before October half term, some just after, so don't worry, but we know exactly when all of our Year 11 reviews are now in the city. They will have attendance where possible from a transition officer, and therefore monitor that paperwork to ensure that that young person and family, parents, carers are aware where that child will be going into Year 12, wherever that might be. So we're very, very confident, but the transition officers also lead on the statutory assessment and monitoring. Well, really, it's the statutory process training. Now, this training links to our written statement of action, and we run statutory training to a range of stakeholders. Now, one of those is to families, parents and carers and young people. We have the dates that training is starting just after October half term. we will share this back out. It has gone to Family Voice, but if you haven't seen this training, please, please, please do sign up to it and share it amongst your communities. And we really want to hit as many families, parents, carers and young people to attend. The same training does go out to health, social care, governors, head teachers, SENCOs, earlier settings. I think that's most of them there listed. And the way that it works is the training itself is broad and back to basics, but each session has been co-produced to that audience. So the parent carer session has been co-produced with Family Voice. So it is targeted to each audience. So please, please, please do look out for that.
Thank you, Jess.
Yeah, so I could go on and on, but they do a lot.
No, thanks. I don't know if there's any more left on the bottom there, Jess. Okay. Oh, sorry. We probably shouldn't. We're being a bit naughty there. We're just, but you can see it's worth. No, I don't think it's okay. You know, because I've just got the names of the team. But one of the issues that we had, and you know, perhaps it was really the only issue related to EHCPs in terms of our written statement of action, was we had that backlog of annual reviews. People have worked so hard to clear that, folks, but I think you can see in the data the kind of volume of stuff that comes in, even around the assessment process. Well, on top of that, there is the annual review process. Now, everybody is involved. There are 2 officers that are dedicated to annual reviews, but in some way lots of other officers are involved. For example, our transition officers are involved in reviews because they're concentrating on those key transition points. But what we do to make sure a backlog doesn't build is every month we look at the number that are in process, and we even here what you've got is data around the number that have gone to actual officers and they are holding, and that they've got to get through within that month alongside of everything else that they're doing, really. Now, Linda is one of the dedicated reviewing officers, but you can see she's very high there. She was actually on leave. So what will happen then is the team will see that, and Katie as team manager will say, okay, let's help Linda out. Let's, you know, Nick, can you take 10? Michelle, have you got room for another 5? Just so that we're not building the backlog anymore. And we wanted to show that to reassure you, really, that what we're doing is really trying to keep, you know, on top of this stuff. I was talking to somebody from another authority in my position this morning, and she was saying, has anybody cracked this? And I don't think anybody has. It's a really difficult system to keep on top of it. But I suppose sharing this with you and sharing what really is performance management data within the team. We want to be open, we want to be transparent, and you can see how we're doing and how we're trying to keep track of that. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah,
and I hope it's what was wanted from us today.
I can just confirm that in the team, Sam's team meeting this week on Tuesday, I can confirm that Linda's has dropped down to, I think, just under 40, and Nick actually did pick up that workload as well. So that is exactly what happened. So we know where we are and we have that support within the service.
Are there any questions? I couldn't see much in the chat. I've worked out how to get to the chat, but I'm really happy. I can't see hands, but look, if anybody wants to ask a question, please do.
Not a question, just a comment to say that's been really, really useful. Sometimes you don't get an idea of what happens behind the scenes when you're on the other side, and you just have parents saying, well, this has happened and this isn't happening, but actually the reality of it behind the scenes is that people are working really, really hard to get things done. And sometimes I guess it's about managing expectations as well when you've just got the limited resources to hand. And I guess, yeah, it's really important to understand that there is a team behind the scenes that's doing all of this work, and
they do care.
Yeah, and so I'm glad this session is going to be recorded and is going to be put out there, because it will be really, really helpful for people to see that the work does happen behind the scenes.
Yeah, and thank you. I'm grinning because Sheila's made me put my camera on, and do this, and now it's going to be shared out in the community. I need subtitles when I speak, but no, that is lovely actually, because we have a very passionate team, and as what's been mentioned before, resources are small, but I can confirm that the statutory assessment team here in Peterborough are very passionate, and we meet and we are very aware where we sit and how to use each other's strengths within the team. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And if anybody's got any ideas about, oh, have you ever thought about this, and could that be, we're really willing to listen, because as I say, I don't think anybody really has this right. I talk to an awful lot of local authorities, and where we struggle, they struggle. But I think in many areas where we are now getting it right, but not across the board, and we wouldn't ever pretend. I don't think we'll ever feel that things are as they need to be, or we would want them to be, because it's that ever improving cycle, isn't it? That's not working. How do we fix that? And it changes all the time. So just let us know. We're really, really, keen to hear what you think, and any ideas, send them to us.
Thank you, Sheila. Any questions? Any comments? Well, it looks like we're all done. Thank you. That was really, really useful. This is one of my first ones that I've done from Family Voice, but that's been really useful. But thank you for your time, and hopefully we can have more of these soon, so that we can hopefully reach out to more parents locally, I guess. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Family Voice. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.